Psalm 131 is a psalm of ascents, or a song of degrees, the King James Version says. As God's people traveled to Jerusalem and ascended the mountain, they would sing these songs. Psalm 131 being one of those. Let's look at it. Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty, neither do I exercise myself in great matters, or in things too high for me. Surely I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. Let Israel hope in the Lord, from henceforth and forevermore. If I could summarize this brief psalm in 3 words, it would be humble, childlike, trust. Humble, childlike, trust. Let's take each one of those words and find them in these verses. First, humble. Verse 1, Lord, my heart's not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. He's recognizing that he doesn't have the answers. He is recognizing that he is not all that. He's not the cock of the walk. He's not, and this is a psalm of David. Recognize this. This is the king. Many a king have been brought down by the fact that they were proud. They weren't humble. They thought they were all that. They were narcissistic. But not David. He said, my heart's not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. He's come to the point of recognizing, and whatever he might have thought of himself in the past, if he had any level of pride before, that he's dependent upon God. He needs the Lord. He's a creature of clay. He's a man who has weaknesses, and he knows that. And he recognizes he doesn't have all the answers. Look at the rest of verse 1. Neither do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me. He's understood that there's certain things in this life that he's not going to understand. And rather than fret and worry and get frustrated with God and demand answers of God, instead he says, you know what, some things are too great for me to understand. I understand that the secret things belong to the Lord, and I'm not going to get all the answers in this life. And some things are just too great for me. I'm not God, in other words. You think about the book of Job and how Job was scrambling to have answers of why he was suffering so much when he didn't think he deserved it. And his friends would come along saying, well, you must have deserved it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having all these horrible things happen to you. And Job was kind of crying out to God, why, Lord? Why am I going through this? I don't understand. And the Lord shows up, and he basically says, these things are too great for you. I'm the Lord. You just got to trust in me. And so David starts in the right place. He starts with humility, because that's where you can learn the most, is when you're humble. You're teachable. Verse 2, he says, surely I behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. So twice in this verse, he makes reference to he's like a weaned child. We're talking about childlike here. Fascinating, he doesn't say like an infant. No, I've been weaned. I know enough to know the basics of life as a child does, but I don't know the stuff that's too great for me, and I'm not exercising myself about it, as he mentions at the end of verse 1. So this is a continuation of thought from verse 1. No, he says, I've behaved and quieted myself. So there was an element of learning here. I've learned that there's just some things I'm not going to know, and I've made myself content with that. This reminds me, of course, of Philippians chapter 4, where the Apostle Paul expresses very similar sentiment. Listen to verses 11 and following. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know how to be abased. I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. So Paul, very much like David, he learned how to be content in his circumstances. And here, David's like, these things that I don't understand in my life, I've learned to be content with that. Like a weaned child. Think about a weaned child. Knows a lot of the basics in life, but doesn't understand the adult stuff. Goes to parents. How many times have kids gone to parents and say, explain this to me? And the parents kind of like, this is above your understanding. And so the parent oftentimes will respond, you'll understand when you grow up. But right now, you're just going to have to accept that you won't know that. Someday you will. So you're going to have to trust in us as your parents. Which leads us to point number 3, verse number 3. Let Israel hope in the Lord from henceforth and forever. Simple, okay? Humble, humility is important. Humble, childlike trust. Humble, childlike trust. This psalm is about recognizing that we're not God, but we can trust in Him. We don't have all the answers, but He does. We can trust Him because He is good. Put your hope in Him. Whatever life circumstance you're going through, whatever difficulty or trial you're going through, just know you may not have all the answers. You may not even understand it in this life, but put your trust in the Lord. Trust in Him with humble, childlike trust, faith in the Lord. He'll look after you. It's worth it. David learned this lesson. You can be content right now with not knowing everything you think you need to know, but just put your trust in the Lord.